everybody for coming. What we're doing today is we're going to do a ground floor tour of the pumping station. It's only got to be very short. We're a bit limited because of the restrictions on the licence. If anybody wants a proper visit, right, then what we'll do is we'll find a way to jointly advertise that, and so we can sort of take people upstairs in small and manageable numbers. And so if everybody would like to, first of all, go down those stairs there.
You could tell them a thing or two then, couldn't you? Right here.
Where we're standing now is the original 1850 pumping station. This is actually the tip of an iceberg of a vast scheme. So I think most people know the two lakes in Lichfield. So those two lakes were significantly modified, and the tunnel was built that comes all the way from Lichfield right to where we're standing now. So there's actually there's actually 5 shafts in total, but there's a tunnel that links this pumping station to Minster Pool, and it also links it to Stowpool. There is then an 11-mile pipeline from here to Moat End Reservoir in Warsaw, and then there's a further reservoir in Warsaw that was built to contain the water. So this is actually only now a small part of the vast scheme. The pumping station was actually built because of the cholera epidemics in the Black Country. In 1831, a new disease arrived in Britain that was killing people, and there was no known cause, and there was no known cure. People called it the Blue Death. People would die within 4 hours of contracting cholera, as it became known. It was a wretched way to die. It's a horrible disease. It's actually called a filth disease. You died in your own squalor. It had a significant impact upon the people in the Black Country. Tens of thousands of people died within weeks, right? So once John Snow, the physician, made the link between clean water and cholera, the authorities quickly realised that they've got to provide an organised waterworks scheme. Now, the problem the Black Country had got is people were dying of cholera in the Black Country because of water. It was known that there's an adequate supply of water in Lichfield, but the mechanics to shift 4 million gallons of water every day from here to the Black Country was technically impossible. But like most Victorian engineers, and like most engineers today, they look at overcoming the impossible, and so they built, which is effectively one of the biggest pumps on the planet. And so if you now follow me, I'll sort of introduce you to which was one of the largest pumping machines ever built. There were bigger ones built subsequently, but this at the time was one of the biggest ever built. So if we follow us through, we'll walk into the pumping station. Walk your way down there, folks. Head down there, that's right. This actual building was built in 1874 and is, as was built, it is pretty much original. So this is one of, it is, I think it's about the 4th largest pumping engine of this type ever built. There are 2 in London, and there are probably 1 or 2 in Cornwall, slightly larger, or similar sizes. But basically what it is, it's a Cornish beam engine. It's an absolute giant. The reason it's so big is because it had this tremendous task to do, which was to basically take 4 million gallons of water every single day and lift the water up 70 feet, first of all, and then to pump the water a further 360 feet higher, 11 miles down a pipeline all the way to Warsaw. And it's had to do that every day, 24/7, non-stop. So this engine would actually run for sometimes a year or so at a time without stopping. I think if you look at the counter, it's shown about 5.5 million strokes, but it's probably gone round the clock a number of times. We can sort of tell by the amount of wear, that it's gone. The design itself Cornish beam engine comes from Cornwall. So it was actually designed by a gentleman called Richard Trevithick, who was actually the father of the locomotive. And what Richard Trevithick did was, he was constantly looking at more efficient ways to operate steam pumps. Because in Cornwall, there's no coal, but there's lots of tin, but what stopped them mining the tin was water, so they had to shift the water. And to shift the water, they needed steam to raise coal. So Richard Trevithick looked at more efficient ways to raise steam to pump water. This is a Waterworks because it was built by public subscription, £10 shares. It was a scheme that was actually really strapped for cash. So they had to really efficiently use the money of the investors in £10 shares. And so that's why they chose a Cornish beam engine, because every bit of water that goes to the Black Country had to be pumped at least once. So successful was this scheme in improving people's lives that cholera was a thing of the past by about 1880. So cholera had quickly disappeared. So this building saved thousands and thousands of lives. I think, from what we can see, this was a triumph of engineering, wasn't it? This really was Victorian engineering at its finest. It was built to serve the community, and we believe it should continue to do so. Schemes like this, they bring about health and well-being. They're not just about investors sort of shipping money off, offshore, are they? This actually brought real benefits to people's lives. The engineering achievements do that. So the restoration work started last year, 2017. The long-term aim is to get the engine working, because if you read how a Cornish engine works, that the equilibrium valve opens and it strikes the inlet valve, and the cataracts, it's all technical. Just watch the thing work, and then it speaks about itself, which is what good engineering does. It then tells its own story. So yes, we'd like to get it to work. We'd like to get it to work on steam, as it used to work. There's a lot of technical challenges to do that, but we think it can be done, because like good engineers, we can do things, can't we, please? Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Where were the boilers?
The boilers originally were where the car park is now. Yeah. And in fact, the coal used to be stacked right up against the two cottages for the boilers, which was amazing, because the two cottages used to belong to the Waterworks, you see. It was a whole package. All that's left is this, but it was a massive package of things. There were cottages, there was 100 workers. It was a vast undertaking.
And the canal came past.
And the canal used to come past outside, right early, and turn and go. Yeah.
Did they bring the coal?
The coal was actually bought on the railway.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but the pumping station used the canal water to cool, and then there was an agreement that the pumping station would pump, I think it's 5 million gallons of water back into the canal. Right, I'm going to hand you over to the very capable hands of Peter Buck, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, David. I'm always stand in awe at these fabulous buildings and structures. They are absolutely inspiring, really. The original canal, the Worley and Essington Canal, was built between 1794 and 1797. It was roughly 7 miles in length, had 30 locks, 30 pounds, 30 bridges, built in 3 years. And when you consider that the most sophisticated piece of equipment they had at those days was a shovel and a wheelbarrow, it's even more inspiring. The piece of canal just immediately outside here has unfortunately been abandoned. The whole canal was abandoned by the Act of Abandonment in 1954, and this section unfortunately now has housing on it and has a number of other structures on the line of the canal, and we can't use it. So the section out here is disused, although we have created the Heritage Towpath Trail. The walk along the towpath all the way along the whole length of the canal, we're trying to get that in, and we have a section of heritage towpath trail right outside, connecting with this beautiful building. This is the line of the original canal. The canal dived off in this direction, and along here they've left a nice walkway through there, but in fact it's down here where we've got, so we'll take you up along the line of the disused canal. This is the heritage towpath trail that runs into the city, runs almost along the line of the original canal, turns up Chesterfield Road, dives through the housing estate, comes out opposite the Duke of Wellington, where we will be having a bite to eat and a bit of refreshment. Well, welcome to the Fossway Heath section of the Lichfield Canal. You're standing on the old disused canal that used to pass through here. You can see from the level of the soil and the gates up the far side, that was the canal level on that side, dropped through a lock 19 that is basically in this gateway to get the canal down to this sort of level. Unfortunately, because of the blockage here, we've had to divert the canal up the verge of Falkland Road here, and so we don't need lock 19 anymore. We'll take you across. First of all, we'll take you up to where the gates are. That's a kissing gate, main access. The intention is that the main access to the canal will come through and up this curvy path. We're going to take you up, and then when we've had a look at the layout from up there, we'll walk back down the path and we'll take you up what is the new north towpath through the Fossway Heath area, but we'll talk of that when we've crossed the road. Well, we've all just passed through the wheelchair-friendly kissing gate, which basically allows wheelchairs to get through, stops motorbikes hopefully getting through, and you will have all walked over the paved area. The paving was only put in on Monday and Tuesday by some corporate volunteers. I mean, I might remind you, everything on this canal is done by volunteers, with very, very few exceptions where we need specialist contractors to do certain works, but everything you see basically is done by volunteers, our own volunteers or corporate volunteers who come to do a day's work with us. You'll also have walked, as you walk through the paved area, you'll notice there is a dog footprint in one of the bricks, just in this gateway. That dog footprint was put into a brick over 200 years ago when the canal was originally built, and it's one of the wall bricks we recovered from the wall. If you notice, just to the side of it is a hobnail boot footprint in the face of the brick as well. And we put those in pride of place right in the opening. As you go through, please have a look. You catch us today with a very significant team of volunteers working, building the wall of the Valley Nature Trail here. This is a Valley Nature Trail. It's forced on us. We had to do this because we were told by the owners, rail track of the railway, that we couldn't fill within 2 meters of the fence line. So we've created a nature trail. We're building the wall up, and this will be the one side of the north towpath wall that we're going to be walking on. The idea is right in this area here we formed the basin. This is the basin where the boats will come down the canal, do a large turn here and go up the green verge there. And we have some walls to put in along here to stop to create the towpath. And what you see is basically that progress has been achieved. You see Hugh is lone working, placing sandbags to create the sandbag wall to create the structure that needs to hold the water back. And we've just started, you can see, excavating out for the walls that will define this large turning area and the pond area here. is on the south side of the towpath. The original wall was built with no mortar in it. All the bricks, it was a dry placed wall. There's no mortar in it at all. We believe that was because at the time the water table was so high they needed the water to come into the canal. But unfortunately, when somebody built a pumping station just down here, I think you might have seen it, it drew the water table down, and suddenly there wasn't water pouring into the canal. Instead, the water from the canal was pouring in to supplement the water table. That carried on for many, many years until finally it was abandoned. Nowadays, of course, we can't waste water. Water is a precious commodity. So we've had to rebuild the whole of the wall along the full length to create a wall that will hold water back. People say, is this the canal down here? No, it's not. It was actually in water and flooded actually 2 days ago. There was a significant depth of water in it. This is the borough pit that was here, created to form this railway embankment in the 1840s. And so they dug a deep pit right down to bedrock, and this hole was placed here. We will be filling that hole up and creating a heathland, lowland heathland area on its surface at this sort of level, and we will be using it to take all the spoil from the cutting that you see running up this way, and all that soil from that cutting will be taken and deposited in here to create the lowland heathland. Okay, we have everybody together. Basically, you can see the canal is on my right. This is the original canal. Pretty much as we found it. We've tinkered with it a little bit. We've removed the wall that didn't have any mortar in it on the far side, which supported the towpath, which was on that side. What we have created since we've arrived here is basically a towpath on the north side of the canal as opposed to the existing towpath on the south side. So this section of canal will have two towpaths, so it gives you the facility to go up to lock 18, which will take you to, and when we've got to 18, you can cross over the lock up there and then come down on the opposite side. And in fact, on this section through here, we've also got a third walk, which of course is the Valley Nature Trail. A lot of work going on to rebuild the wall, to form the basin that we have in front of you. You're standing on the corner, the point at which this piece of canal will divert, and there will be a wall running right the way across this end, and this will be a very, very large body of water to enable 70-foot boats to do the difficult manoeuvre turning hard right to go up Falkland Road. That's basically what we've got here, and you can see the lads here on a typical day. This is one of several days. We are currently working 7 days a week on the Canal Restoration Trust. There is always somebody working somewhere on some section of the canal, and currently most of our efforts are being worked on here while we sort out the paperwork and work out logistics for other sections. And then we also have, as I mentioned earlier, the corporates, and the corporates decide when they're going to come, and we try and give them a worthwhile job to do. And I tell you, the corporates do go away with a big beaming smile on their face, usually an aching shoulders from using muscles that they didn't think they had, and they go away with a big smile on their faces, which is really what we want. And they do some fabulous bits of work. And the gate system you saw up there, all the paving was done by a team of the corporates as well. So I'm really grateful for the work of the corporates. Right, what we've got here is, this is where the original boundary fence, which is still there, was moved over by the farmer who adversely possessed by the towpath, the full width of the towpath. With the result is there was about 6 inches of towpath through this section for about 150 metres, and we therefore could not restore the canal, or couldn't restore the canal towpath. So we decided to make a positive out of it, as one tries to do always, and we decided we would pull the towpath over, create a new towpath, and we would create a wetland area in here. And we would create boardwalks to go over the top of the wetland, so that instead of walking in the farmer's field, we've left the boundary where it is. We didn't particularly want a long run dispute with the local farmer, so instead we decided to make a feature out of it. What you're standing on is the original bank, which is the offside, the north bank, and this bank has been moved over by about 7 metres with the aid of all our own plant. You passed a load of excavators down there, dumpers down there. All that plant is owned by the trust. It's been bought over the years and is run by our own drivers, our own operators who are trained under a scheme we work with the IWA, and so they're all trained and insured to drive those pieces of equipment, and it makes for a very effective way of restoring the canals. But we set several excavators to haymake this embankment over, reform it, and the path you now stand on is in fact a path running along the top of that towpath. So what we've got now is a diversion, a bulge in the channel, and the intention is to create the wetland. You can see the bund, we're starting to form it, and we're starting to enlarge the central island there. The central island itself will be an open air classroom, so that when we have kids and we have groups, we can in fact talk to them, and we can put some interpretation boards on the island. And the two small islands are wet islands that we will encourage the nice creepy crawlies and the swimmy things to make their little homes in the wet islands. And we've had to obviously build a wedge-shaped wall, rebuild the wall to come out away from the section of canal or towpath which has been lost in the field, and that's basically what we've done here. And there's a program of people working all the way down this wall, and we've been doing this now for nearly a year, but we're really making great inroads into rebuilding that wall and reforming the towpath on that side. And you'll see over the next few weeks there will be a great deal of work being done on getting the towpaths through, getting the wetland completed, and so when there is a shower of rain, it fills into the wetlands and doesn't go into the canal. We obviously have to reform and grade the canal channel here to make the proper basin so boats can get through. You see off to the left, of course, is the area we will use as fill material for all the excavated material out of the cuttings. This will be level out to the embankment, down to the Valley Nature Trail alongside the railway we spoke of earlier. Any questions?
This is going to be filled in with the soil?
Soil. Sandy soils, hopefully. Yeah. We will have a sandy finish to it. It'll be heath, it'll be gorse, and it will be a really nice environment. Part of what we call as the stepping stones between Whittington Heath here and Cannock Chase and the like, it's stepping stones of it. It allows the wildlife to bounce along the line of the canal and the sections of canal we've got. So if we can create any small areas of lowland heathland, which is another big tick in the box. Right, what we have here is is we're crossing the line of the very original water supply, the ancient water supply from Aldershot going into the centre of Lichfield, which basically ran down through the field and ran under the canal. And we know for a fact when they built the canal originally, they had to negotiate with the Conduit Lands Trust to put the pipe underneath the canal in a culvert. And of course when the railway came along later on, they had to do the same and extend that culvert right underneath. That pipe was running with water right up until I believe 1972, where I'm told it was Chris Patterson said the record basically showed they stopped pumping. Well, I think the idea to try and save the water table here. I think it dates back to either the 1500s or maybe even earlier, when it was first put in, and it was originally a timber pipe, we believe, was upgraded to lead, and then was upgraded to cast iron, various sizes, and we've got records of cast iron pipes being delivered to Gallows Wharf and Street Hay Wharf for the upgrade of this particular pipe. There's an interesting aside here that in the 1640s, the parliamentarians came to this part of the city, or to lay siege to the city, and we believe they took up the pipe, which was lead, and not only severed the water supply, but took the lead out of the lead pipe, made it into musket balls and shot them into the cathedral. And there's one particularly nice cosy report of when they were building the railway bridge down here. A night watchman was grovelling around in the back of the car park. What does a night watchman do grovelling around in the back of a car park in the middle of the night? I don't know. And he found a hearth with musket balls in it. So we believe that's probably where they were camped, and where basically this lead pipe in 1640 was used to throw lead at the cathedral. A nice little tale. Any questions?
There's a 60-foot fall to the friary.
Good. I'm told that's a 60-foot fall from the top down to the friary, where the original outfall pipe used to come through it was a public spring, wasn't it? That's right. Public watering point. Yes. So that's basically that's the history in water. This is a delightful piece of canal here. You know, you stand and stop and listen to the silence, and you can just hear a tweet of a bird or a butterfly, or it's
most of it through Lichfield used to be like this.
Yes, it is. This is a delight.
You know, it's an asset that's been lost.
Yes.
Do it.
No, we'll put it back. We'll put it back. We'll put it back.
It's just bent over.
Welcome to Lock 18. This is Lock 18 was one of the very, very early elements that the Lichfield Canal Trust took to restore, and it was restored over a period of 2-3 years, and was finally opened on the 200th anniversary of the original canal opening. And that was in 1997. I've got my boss over here who's checking on me. 1997, there we are, you see, 200 years old. The original canal was opened in 1797. You'll notice we are struggling with nature. Nature wants to take it back. But I do have 60-70 people from the work recovery group are coming in November on a bonfire bash, and we're going to clear this lot and get it back down again to where we can, and clear the whole of all the brambles down here. We'll trim 1 or 2 of these trees so we can get in there and we can start really doing some restoration work up here. That's the intention, is to work from the bottom up here, and let's get back here, let's get the channel above here sorted, get the rubbish and the stuff that's been tipped into the channel below the lock. We'll remove all of that as well. Yes, the vandalism that was done to canals after they were abandoned is pretty amazing, and we're having to fight all of that to get back to restore the canal properly.